LEGO Star Wars saw incredible change that revolutionized how we saw LEGO from 2002 onward. In celebration of the 25th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars and the incredible ride it has taken to reach this point, we're going to take a retrospective look at the theme from the perspective of eras rather than specific years, each named after eras or ages both historical and meaningful, just for the fun of it. Our second step on this journey is the Age of Revolution, an era that revolutionized how LEGO did things, that is. Let's start by giving you some perspective. It's now 2002 and LEGO has hobbled its way over the turn of the millennium. It's very clear to them that, in order to maintain relevance, there's a need to spread some awareness. After so many individual efforts, LEGO has fully entered the digital age, with its programmable robots, Mindstorms, being a huge success, a cherished library of tie-in PC CD-ROM games releasing regularly, and a fully fledged website being available to the public designed to inform about their products while also being entirely safe for children to use. As we noted previously, LEGO has also discovered the power of intellectual property, or IP for short. They had made it very clear that, despite licensing with other companies, they still wanted to maintain their core pillars. Town, Castle, Technic, and some of the space-themed sets would come and go, each with different and new approaches based on what they've learned as the years went on. Even some adjacent moves, like an adventurer's story spanning multiple regions as opposed to just one, and even a secret agent theme and alpha team peppered this explorative LEGO. Some themes would come about stemming from the video game offerings at the time, like LEGO Island Extreme, while others were another attempt at doing what Bionicle did with Galador. Yes, because it was just that successful. Bionicle was the figurehead of LEGO's internal IP. It was rapidly growing into a multimedia giant at this point, supporting a LEGO that very much needed its own victories. Star Wars was what led the way though, the guiding compass. What it was doing followed the ideals of the company at the time as a whole, and would continue to serve as the trendsetters, further bolstered by plenty of other new licensed IPs. What was helping is that these licensed themes were trying new things that the non-licensed sets could use, while piggybacking off of the promotional material of the movies they were based off of. A genius strategy LEGO even uses today. This worked so well with Star Wars and Harry Potter, they even began their first licensed sets based off of the new Marvel movies coming out. Specifically, Spider-Man, a crossover of ideas encouraging kids to make movies with the LEGO Studios theme LEGO developed, all centering around a special video camera. A big, fancy, and costly camera. A side effect of all this innovation, and in part due to what we covered previously on the forte of LEGO's designers at the time, more innovative product designers and toy designers, so many of these one-off LEGO pieces were all over the place in LEGO's portfolio. They were overly specific and really only ever had one potential use, some even seeing technology integrated into it, like the aforementioned camera. These parts revolutionized what LEGO could do, but was also part of the reason they were going bankrupt at the time in the first place. Course correction was needed to get everything back into fitting within the LEGO system. Bionicle was figuring this out in a way, by keeping its unique parts useful enough to be used for as many characters as possible. Something the Second Knights Kingdom line was on top of with its buildable action figure line as well. It took LEGO Racers to first get into making new and fancy parts that were wholly within the system of parts LEGO had initially become popular for. Sure, LEGO Racers had its intention to copy Bionicle directly, what with its media tie-ins, and they even tried the mixed lineup like Star Wars did, by having system sets and Technic sets all under the same branding. It still had its own swath of specified parts like pullback motors and remote control systems, but it also introduced now mainstay elements. A lot of rounded slopes and canopies, as well as the angular plates we know today, were introduced at the start of 2002, with the sub-theme of LEGO Racers we would come to refer to as Drome Racers. The name of this era of the LEGO Racers themes tie-in PC CD-ROM game. A lot of older builders at the time felt that this would take away from LEGO's blocky charm from the times before it, but as time would go on, people ate it up. It was these parts introduced that really began to show the potential of LEGO, and even revolutionized LEGO Star Wars. It was time for Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and LEGO was ready with their tie-in sets. With these new pieces, the more rounded shapes of the prequel trilogy of Star Wars had become even easier to implement. Sets like the Republic gunship, Jango Fett's Slave 1, and Obi-Wan's Jedi Starfighter benefited heavily from this. Despite this increase in accuracy, LEGO was still adamant about play, going as far to integrate play features not featured in the movies just to make some use of the space in some of these sets. Of course, they still wanted to write home the idea that it's still the same old LEGO, and still featured crazy alternate builds on the back of the boxes. All of this would apply to further sets they developed based off of the original trilogy. Even as early as this, it was proven that the original trilogy was the big seller of LEGO Star Wars, though perhaps nostalgia of those who were there at the film's launch only helped bolster that, seeing as they would have been in their 30s or 40s at this point. It might have been the earliest case of LEGO capitalizing on nostalgia. What helped keep things going at this time was having a focus on affordability. LEGO introduced the Mini sub-theme, which speaks for itself. Otherwise, the focus was on smaller sets in general that had everything you would need. Nothing was too big unless it really needed to be. In some situations, like with Jabba's palace, separate sets were released. You could combine them into one whole diorama, but on their own, they were their own iconic piece you could be content with. This was further cemented in place with Harry Potter doing the exact same things on both accounts. Affordability, yet keeping things iconic, yet with its own charm. But perhaps in excess. Nearly everything could combine into one whole big castle. Carrying up a slightly higher price range, LEGO Star Wars Technic sets still continued in this era, in the hopes to have all the tentpoles of LEGO working together under one IP. This time with a bit more intent. LEGO had moved away from incorporating Mindstorms into LEGO Star Wars sets, so using new parts that would allow more accuracy and functionality became the focus. Of course, that doesn't mean there weren't expensive LEGO Star Wars sets. Exclusives were still a very big thing for them, spearheaded, of course, by the Ultimate Collector series. In fact, UCS sets would see itself defined here with the release of the UCS Imperial Star Destroyer, the largest LEGO set released at the time. Many excellent UCS sets would follow, but as LEGO was big on innovating at this time, they also tested a different kind of Ultimate Collector's build. This special edition Naboo Starfighter was not much bigger than the previous one they had released, but it was sleeker, and even featured LEGO pieces covered in chrome to drive its luxurious appearance home, and at an affordable price even. This wasn't the only effort into new types of exclusives for LEGO. They also released a Cloud City playset depicting all of the most important scenes featured throughout the location. However, more importantly, this was the first time LEGO had ever mixed characters with human skin tones with those that have the classic minifig yellow one. In 2003, LEGO had introduced a line of minifig packs featuring iconic NBA players. These sets were a part of its LEGO sports theme, and these human skin tones were used to depict actual real-life basketball players. You would never find these minifigures mixed in with the other LEGO sports sets, as they were meant to be somewhat like trading cards. In fact, they even included them. Like all the licensed themes at the time, this one had its own unique art style, and it was assumed that human skin tones were a part of that. Enter Lando Calrissian, who was the first fictional LEGO character to be wholly depicted as he appeared in the movies, complete with one of, if not the first double-sided cape. This leap from what we all thought was just an artistic choice would leave almost an immediate impact, where the following year, every other licensed LEGO theme now was depicting characters with the human skin tone options they had at the time. Both Harry Potter and Spider-Man immediately adopted this practice, and today, we have as much of a range to accurately depict these characters, and even ourselves, all thanks to this choice. This set was also an extremely rare instance where a playset was priced as high as this one was, so it wasn't for the faint of heart, and it became extremely rare because of that. What's neat though, is that there is a landing platform at the back for the Millennium Falcon, and one was introduced the following year, giving Han and Leia human skin tones as well. Weirdly enough, this was the only Star Wars set that year that wasn't using the minifig yellow characters despite this. One last exclusive, and one that certainly came from previous efforts in LEGO Star Wars, was the TIE Collection. This wasn't some super fancy build, just a pack of ships, yet still exclusive to LEGO. The curiosity is the fact only one of these ships was actually exclusive. Both Darth Vader's TIE Advanced and the generic TIE Fighters were from other sets, which as I'd previously stated, was completely intentional. LEGO began practicing the idea of the package refresh in this era, in order to keep well-made, yet iconic, original trilogy ships still on the shelves. A new set number and slightly updated or refreshed packaging was meant to keep stores wanting them on the shelves. Sets from 1999 were still on shelves to accommodate that, and this led to the TIE Collection being the way it was. Interestingly, this practice of the package refresh reached such heights that LEGO was reissuing sets nearly 10 years old at the time in order to capitalize on their most iconic products of the decade prior, under the name LEGO Legends, complete with bringing back all of their molds, no matter what size they were, left completely untouched from their original release. So much capitalization went into these new processes and efforts that it is no secret why they were going bankrupt. As I had mentioned before, a stricter system needed to be in place on the parts side of things, as some of these sets were incorporating entire computers in them, for the cost of a toy without one. Falling back on old laurels, or not respecting what a truly new item was to a customer made for a very cluttered era of LEGO as a whole as well. Basically, the entire brand had to be broken down and rebuilt brick by brick, but only including what was necessary. Mindstorm's scaling back was because it alone was a success out of the many other controllable and programmable efforts, rather than just wanting to focus on it alone. The brains of these robots were full computers and simply were not LEGO on their own. While inspiring the next generation of builders remained important, allowing Mindstorms to stick around, most battery-powered elements were completely discarded, no matter which shape they came in. There was also a complete shift in focus on tie-in media. While Bionicle was succeeding, another effort in creating a multimedia buildable action figure product line, Galador, never took off. LEGO, however, did not stray away from continuing to tell bold stories with their original in-house themes, as the aforementioned Knight's Kingdom theme sought to be a strong middle ground, releasing at the end of this era. LEGO Legends fumble out of the gate, their prompt retirement, and the package refreshes in LEGO Star Wars eventually being replaced by newer models made it plain to see that the new in-system pieces they had introduced in 2002 were working, and that a consistent cycle of refreshing iconic concepts were a necessity for brand health and keeping up with IP standards. This refocus of things also specifically hit LEGO Star Wars in how they approach sets from here on out. Technic was no longer going to have its own sub-theme of sets within LEGO Star Wars beyond this era, and sets were going to move away from unnecessary functionality, or at least the ones that made very little sense anyways. LEGOs simply began playing to their strengths. In-house ventures needed to be something they knew they could execute just with a brick, and licensed offerings needed to be methodical with what was current, while also not losing LEGO's identity. All the while, Bionicle grew into something they simply did not expect. Both Bionicle and Star Wars were hand in hand as juggernauts helping keep LEGO from bankruptcy. And while restructuring how things worked were a necessary effort on the corporate side of things, these efforts left LEGO prepared for what would be a positive turning point for the future of LEGO Star Wars, and the entire brand as a whole. The promise of another sequel, an epic conclusion to yet another Star Wars trilogy. Thanks for coming on this journey with me. If you liked this video, please hit the like button and let me know down in the comments if you have any memories of these sets, as well as if you'd like to see this series of the eras of LEGO Star Wars continue. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when the next era releases, unless you see it on the end screen, alongside some more of my LEGO Star Wars videos you might like. I'm Pen, and I'll see you next time.